Yeah, I think people should be able to connect now. Hey, can you hear me, Eric? Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, I don't know why I wasn't on the webinar.
Hello, everyone. We are live for our webinar today. I'm going to turn it over to Joe Gasser.
Okay. Are we ready to start, Kat?
Yes, we are.
Or should we? Okay.
Should the other people that are joining show up?
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yes, we are live, gentlemen. We have 13 attendees out there.
Excellent. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Joe Gasser. I'm going to be helping facilitate today's webinar, and I wanted to give a quick introduction of who's going to be on the call today on this webinar. First, what we're going to do is just get you familiar with the webinar feature. We're going to have you on mute just for a short period of time here while we give introductions, go through the agenda. And if you do have questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll try to find a spot to either give you live and unmute you, or even better, use the chat function and Kat will be helping collect those, and then we'll find an appropriate spot to help address that, any questions you have. And if you're having any technical difficulties, we'll try to work you through that too. But I think we've got everybody on the line. So first, we'll go through the introductions of the team of both Next Coast and Techneaux. And we have, first with Next Coast, we've got Larry Roush, Don McIntosh, myself as the moderator, and Kat Cogran. And with Techneaux, we've got Matt Tinnen and Eric Tinnen and Ben Walker. And then with us, we have Encana, who's going to talk about their story about a solution that was provided and then help them in their productivity with SCADA and OSI Pi. So with that, Larry, I'd like you to give a little introduction of Next Coast.
Thanks very much, Joe. Appreciate that intro. Just briefly, I thought I would introduce Next Coast, and it's a company where the founders and associates really enjoy a business that discovers and productizes innovative software solutions. These software solutions are originated by domain experts that have perfected a solution to a classic business problem. Techneaux is a domain expert in the SCADA area, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but that's what Next Coast does.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Tinnen. I'm one of the partners at Techneaux. The company started about 8 years ago. We have around 60 employees, primarily based out of Lafayette, Louisiana. We're primarily a technology service company focusing on oil and gas, but we have other verticals as well. We also develop custom applications like the one that you'll see today in this presentation. And that's it for me, Joe. I don't know if I was supposed to say anything else. Is Joe muted or something?
I am muted. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
I've got to make sure I've got to use the mute on the panel function there. So yes, that's going to bring us together as a SyncX solution that we're going to talk about today, and how those business challenges were addressed with that. And like we said, we have, let's see, let's go to the next slide. So one of the challenges that with SCADA and OSI Pi, we'll talk about the data structure really is the manpower and the challenges with trying to get data to your Pi system and seeing value there. And the long administrative cost of doing that too. Sometimes it's very hands-on, it's babysitting it, it's really complicated. Sometimes you just want to pull your hairs out. That's what we see the challenges, problems have had with customers with trying to get some data to OSI Pi, especially in oil and gas. So hopefully some of these pain points kind of resonate with maybe the challenges you have. We're looking forward to hear about your unique challenges because each customer is a little bit different. And that kind of brings us in to the solution.
Can I make a point here, Joe, real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this problem that we're going to be talking about today, is in relation to a SCADA system and OSI Pi, but the problem itself is not unique. With a lot of our customers, they have a SCADA system, and that's the first place where you go and build something. And then you have all of these other systems, whether it's something like FlowCal or ProCount, measurement systems, accounting systems, historians like Pi, and all of those systems need to be updated with that information as well. And that's a time-consuming and error-prone process. So this problem that we're solving isn't necessarily unique, but the way that the problem was solved is unique, and I think the people on this presentation seeing it will realize that the technology behind this is solving it in a way that applies to every single customer that's using Signet and Pi. That's it, Jeff.
Thanks for that additive there. And I think that's the unique characteristics of, okay, how can we improve productivity? And how can we get additional data from our additional value from our Pi system? So really, I think let's kind of look at what the Signet data looks like, and how, let's the scenario of how do we get this information over to a Pi system? Why is it complicated? And I think Eric and Matt and Ben, you guys were here to help kind of talk about that and what it looks like.
Eric, you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick overview, and then I'm going to let Ben talk. What this slide is basically showing is the data model in Signet, and then kind of a rough representation of how that data might look like in Pi. The main issue here that we had to try and solve was that the Pi data model did not match what was in Signet, and we had to create a tool that allowed them to create a custom data model in Pi. I'll let you guys talk more about it.
So on the Signet side, we have different concerns than the Pi side. On the Signet side, we have to build a facility model that matches good device polling practices, and they have to support screens, and things have to be organized in that way. We tend to have parent and child facilities, and the organization is driven by the field. On the Pi side, different requirements take over. You are producing different kinds of trends and presentations, and the organization tends to look a lot different. We certainly saw this at Encana as well, and so part of what has to happen with this, as you could see in this chart, for example, if you look at the gas meters and the oil meter, for example, in Signet, those are separate facilities with their own points, but on the Pi side, for example, you can see that that structure has been flattened out, and oil, gas, and water volumes are all showing up perhaps on one well, like template on the Pi side. And the tanks, for example, as you can see, maybe there's a tank battery on the Pi side because there's different organization, again, of this information. So this is very hard to achieve without a specific way to map information in Signet to Pi, and this kind of shows one potential way in which that might happen.
Well, how would a customer do that today? Let's say they were going to do this, and would they have to manually do this, copy and paste, or create their own tool? I mean, how do some customers deal with this challenge?
Stephen could talk to that a little bit, but a lot of customers that we've talked to either have their own processes that they've built to try and achieve something like this, or try and stick to the Signet data model, one or the other. I'll let Stephen talk to the process they used before.
Okay, yeah, we'll get that into the introduction there. So luckily there's a tool that was developed called SyncX. And SyncX is, we're going to go through the architecture of what that SyncX tool looks like, of taking that Signet data and then helping bring that into an OSI Pi system. And really, to get into the technical details and not get too high level, one of our calls to action after this call is we'd like to get to know your unique circumstance, but also we can get into further technical discussions of how SyncX works. But with that, Matt, Eric, and Ben are here to kind of talk about, okay, let's look at the working pieces here. How does this thing function? What are you guys talking about? What is SyncX really doing here with the Signet to OSI Pi data or OSI Pi? So with that, Matt, Eric, Ben, I'll give you the floor, kind of talk about the technical overview of how the tool works.
Yeah, so you could probably skip through this slide and show all the pieces at once. That would be fine. On the left-hand side there, obviously, we've got our SCADA system. For this current implementation of the tool, it mainly functions off of Signet, but the concept of the tool obviously could work for other SCADA systems. Then on the right-hand side, we have Pi, right? The main purpose of this tool is to move Signet configuration information into Pi. It currently does not deal with, current values or historical information. From a Signet perspective, the main things that we're concerned with are Signet facilities and points, and how those are moved over into Pi's asset framework. Why are we moving
Hold on.
through some?
Our
Okay.
slides are jumping around here.
That's fine. So on the Pi side, we have the asset framework. We are creating and updating elements in Pi with the tool, as well as creating and updating Pi points, which are in a separate database. So the tool takes Signet facilities and points and transforms them into Pi elements and Pi points or tags, whatever terminology you want to use for that. The power of the tool is that it can transform the information before it actually gets into Pi. As you saw in the slide before, the data models can be vastly different between the two systems, and the tool will support that. The tool also works on the concept of templates, like you see at the bottom there. A template in Pi is basically a template for building out elements. It can include a variety of different types of attributes, and the way our tool works is you can specify what template you want to use to build elements from. It will pull in all the attributes from the template, and you can also add in your own custom attributes as well, which is one of the features that Encana wanted. So that's a feature that the tool includes. And we also have the concept of an exclusion flag, so you can exclude certain facilities and or points from actually getting migrated over into Pi. And the next slide, I'll kind of go over some of the architecture, but if anybody else wants to chime in on this slide, feel free.
Well, I was going to ask is, well, how's that loaded? You have a client and a server side? What does that look like then? How's those pieces incorporated?
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the next slide where it shows the, yeah, there you go. So there's two main pieces to the application. The first piece is an interface to configure the rules. The output of this interface is XML files that basically have all the options for how your rules are configured. Then these XML files can then be used with a Windows service to actually schedule the process to run. So the Windows service is a separate piece that runs on any machine. It will scoop up these configuration files, run the comparison process, which will compare Signet to Pi, and then the actual output that you get from that is a series of reports that are generated showing you what the differences are between the two systems. And then you can either take action and look through these reports and verify that the information is correct before you, import them into Pi. So there's a lot of flexibility there. The reports will get emailed out through a distribution list, and you can take action after you receive the report. You can also, as you can see, you might be able to see in the screenshot, but you can also build reports from the interface there as well, and import them. So through the interface, you can actually do all the actions that the Windows service does, but the Windows service is more convenient if you have a bunch of these that you need to run automatically every day. For an example, Encana has probably 20 or so of these configurations that they're currently using in production. So they get emails with all these reports. Yeah, and I'll let other people talk to this slide if they want.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that so you can set this up to have administrative feedback where they're looking at the report that's been generated and then determining whether all of those changes are correct and then letting the tool apply those changes. Or you can simply point the output directory of those reports to the import directory of the Windows service and have it pick up those reports automatically. So it just continuously applies those changes as they come in. So the tool is flexible about that. I just want to make that part clear.
Yeah, so essentially we have this client for configuring your rules, as Eric said, and allowing you to test those rules with various previews and building your reports within the client. And then once you've set up these rules that maps the data from Signet to the templates or elements in Pi according to your design, these general rules apply and then in the future to new facilities in Signet and so forth. So once you've designed and tested everything in the client, you can set up the service. The service will pick up all of these configurations and it will produce change reports. And as Matt said, these change reports can be handled automatically or they can be emailed out to the Pi administrators and they can review the changes before they're applied to the system.
For a new user or somebody new to SyncX, what's typical time for trying to implement a solution and getting it running?
It kind of depends. Yeah, it really depends on how complex your Signet and/or Pi system is. It's actually, once you understand the tool and how it works, it's actually pretty quick to, have a preview of what the objects would look like in Pi. I've been, working with the tool for a while, but I can build, a configuration in 10, 15 minutes and have it previewing for me to look at. But it's just a matter of how complex your system is and how many of these configurations you need to properly convert Signet into Pi. It could be, an hour to get things running and previewing objects. It could be a couple of days. Just really depends.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So I was just trying to get the audience to better understand the length of time investment to getting a solution to work. So before we kind of work into,
sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, I was going to say before I jump into what problems were solved there and talking about SyncX even further, I wanted to take a quick pause and have Kat share if there was any hands that were raised or questions. Maybe take a quick break for those. Not a break, but a pause.
Yeah, we currently don't have any questions in the queue yet, Joe. But for those of you out there listening, please use the question type in bar if you do have a question you'd like to ask, and I'll let the moderators and panelists know if there's a question out there.
Thank you, Kat. And there was a comment right there before we kind of, was that Ben or Matt or Eric?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the tool is intended to very rapidly deploy these configurations and change them as well very quickly if they need to be changed. So as Eric was saying, he can do it very quickly within 15 minutes to an hour. If you think about it, every time you build a template on the Pi side, you're going to want to add a new configuration in SyncX. And the huge benefit here is just how easy it is to change and add new templates and verify that they're working properly. This is not an easy process otherwise, as the mapping part is difficult and pulling in the correct data from Signet and filtering it out is difficult, whereas all these pieces are directly provided inside this tool.
Excellent, Ben. Thanks for that feedback. So yeah, the problems that are solved that we were discussing here, to kind of give the highlights of, all right, what problems were solved. So, the data mapping, translation, the transformation, also number of configurations. You can actually use and copy existing SyncX configuration files. No more manual changes, the assets. We can look back in time also. So those are all some great problems that are solved from this tool and from the experience and the enablement from both Technaux's technical experience in creating a tool called SyncX to try to really help the problem of, hey, help me manage this data more efficiently. How can it be more productive in doing that? But also, it's the time-consuming part. So I think that kind of an overview of a lot of the, some of the top problems SyncX solves. And with us today, we have in Kana, we have both Stephen Kochuba and Lance Schroeder. And we brought them. They were going to share their story today about, well, what were they doing before they had such a solution? Kind of talk about that, but also talk about what success they had. So before we get into that, we'll get to the realized benefits that we've had other customers talking about, and we're going to hear that from Stephen and Lance. And Larry and Don, please feel free to also talk about some of the benefits there where we talk about SyncX. So I know the existing portfolios for a customer, especially when our portfolios change in oil and gas, getting more value from their PI system is very important. Now we feel that we're getting better value from the assets from the Signet data to OSI PI. And there's fewer gaps with historical. Now we have more confidence with the data and the reliability. And a high level of integrity is very important too from the SCADA system. So I think that's the benefits there is really tremendous with the complex manual system that occurred to now having a system that has builds confidence, provides better reliability, and more accurate. Anybody wanted to add additional comments about some of the realized benefits from your experience and customers? Well, I don't want to talk any bit more. I'd rather have Stephen and Lance kind of share their story. I think that's our next slide here in the introduction. And talking about success story, or if I jump in a slide, let me know.
Okay, thank you. I can give a bit of a background of how we started on this journey. Encana's PI system has been around for quite a while, especially in Canada. It was probably in the early 2000s. And in order for us to build PI tags in AF elements, it was a very manual process. But we did have a well-established workflow process where the PI team would be involved for new equipment, well startups, or any sort of information changes. When the PI team got these requests, we'd have to use Excel templates to build out the tags we wanted and create the AF elements. And of course, it'd be different when going from different asset area, as the Signet systems would be different. So in 2015, we decided to expand our PI system to include data from the US assets. And we realized that the US didn't have the same workflow processes in Canada to involve the PI team. So we tried to develop a bit of a solution on our own to try to synchronize our PI tags and AF elements to what our source systems, in this case Signet, would have. And we found that process to be very difficult to maintain. We wanted to see, what tags were added, what was changed in the system, what sort of information was updated, and reflect those changes in our PI tags or AF elements. So with all the difficulties that we had, we decided to evaluate the OSIsoft Signet connector. But we quickly realized that didn't really meet our needs, as the connector would create PI tags to a different naming standard that we were not using, and also would not make use of our AF templates, which many of our users relied on, and also integrations. So as PI was being rolled out to more and more US assets, we saw this effort to create and modify PI tags and AF elements would be increasing for us over time. So we made the decision to approach Techneaux to see if they could help us out to develop a tool that we could better synchronize this information and also maintain it. It'd be easy for us to maintain. So we worked on the requirements with Techneaux, and we're looking for a utility that'd be flexible enough to work with different Signet systems and each of our different asset areas, and also work with our different standards we had in naming our PI tags and AF element structures on both sides of the border. So then along that, we came up with SyncX, and it definitely allows for the easier administration of our PI tags and AF elements. We're able to create the PI tags more quickly when new equipment is commissioned in the field or new wells are starting up, and reduces the data gaps that we have creating the PI tags. We're no longer notified from our users that information is, or PI tags or AF elements are missing, as they're more rapidly created. And it reduces the amount of time we spend on backfilling data into our system. So right now, we're currently in our system, we have about 25 configuration files used in 3 different asset areas. We have a fairly large system, probably about 300,000 PI tags, 20,000 AF elements, 650 users. So now with this tool, we're able to more easily maintain and spend less time on tag administration and free up our PI team to do higher value activities and projects.
That's a great story. How many people total were on that team prior, in regards to some of the administrators, both on American and Canadian side?
Initially, we had 2 employees working on our PI system, and we found just the administration effort was too great, and we weren't making any progress on any larger activities. So that's when we got a consultant, Lance, to join our team and to kind of help us out here.
Yeah, one thing that I want to add is what the benefit of this tool is not only being able to configure these sync files, but it also allows you to go in and look at the existing system. So the SyncX system, you can filter it down, and it exposes a lot of the stuff that you have to go and do some major digging on the SyncX side, and this just exposes it right there and groups it together. And it really cuts down on that fact-finding mission that you got to go on. So there's a big time savings doing it that way with this tool.
That's a really. I was going to say, Joe, we do have a couple of questions popping up. I feel like Stephen and Lance briefly touched on one that I have here. And it's basically, what was the improvements to headcount, cost, delay, and reliability once the SyncX was deployed?
Well, I think the tool probably saves us probably about a third.
Yeah, at least a third, yeah.
A third in amount of time we spend on tag and element administration on our system. And that probably translates to how many hours a week?
Oh, probably, I would say at least 16 hours a week that we're saving doing this. Give or take, as this system grows too, you get return on that even gets better. So as more areas come online, you can roll these out pretty quickly too. So that's what we've done here, is we implemented a new area here, and it was the benefits just keep on giving back. Also, too, the one thing that's really good is you can schedule these to run on a daily basis. So then when you come in, and if you schedule it early enough, you come in and you have your breakdown already set up for you, and then you can just evaluate that and build out any changes or any new items that you need to. So that's a good benefit, is you can have it set up and it will just run automatically. So when you get in, the work will already be done for you.
So enabling the scheduler, helped really run that before coming in and not have to worry about that running and clicking the mouse or setting it up post and then waiting for your workflow, to go through the data. Yeah.
Yeah, what's that famous saying, set it and forget it type of thing? That's what you do, you set it. And
I like that. Set it and forget it.
We do have another question that has just popped up. What version of Signet is SCADA running? Is there any compatibility issues when getting Signet to work with older versions, or SyncX to work with older versions of Signet?
So I can address that one. We shouldn't have any problems. All the modern versions of Signet from 8.1.3 forward should generally have no problem running.
That's good news.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
I saw a question about what's required for this tool to
Yeah.
run, and it's just a Signet client and a Pi client, basically. So we need the Pi API for the tool to run. So it needs to have a Pi client installed on the machine.
Simple enough.
Were
Any
you
other
about to say
questions
something,
out
Stephen,
there?
a moment ago?
Sorry, what was that?
It sounded like I might have talked over you when I started to answer that question, Stephen. Were you about to say something?
Yeah, we're just going to say that this tool has worked on different Signet system versions for us, as our Signet team did do an upgrade while we were using the tool, and we were able to have the tool running on different Signet versions. And maybe Eric can comment on which versions they were specifically, but
Yeah, I think we went from 8.1.3 to 8.5, and then we're planning to do another upgrade to 9. So yeah, I mean, like Ben said, I don't foresee there being any issues with people using different versions with this tool.
Any more questions out there, Kat? Any hands raised?
I don't see any at the moment, but yeah, if anyone would like to ask a question directly. Oh, here we got one popped in again from Anil. Are there any dependencies to Signet ODBC?
Yes, this tool, in order to have the best performance, does require the Signet ODBC to be installed.
Anybody else have questions out there?
Any participants want to share a question that they have?
I do have one here that just popped up. How many instances of SyncX is in Canada running currently?
They're running one copy of it. The one Windows service is handling and processing all their Signet systems, or they should actually. Are you running two, Stephen, or one? I didn't know if you're running one or two. Are you running one for Canada and one for US?
that's right. Yeah, we're running 2 instances.
Okay,
one
yeah. Yeah, they have 2 separate domains. Basically, the US system and the Canadian system are in 2 separate domains, so we actually have 2 copies of it running.
In case there's any questions about where the service would be installed, generally in the past we've installed the service on the Signet servers. Isn't that correct, Eric? And for performance reasons, since we're not moving history, this could, in theory, be installed on the Pi server as well. So you have flexibility there. You just need client connections between the different systems wherever you install that service.
Yeah, and the service shouldn't take up too much processing power, as it runs usually just once a day for, maybe 30 minutes or something. So it's not going to have a lot of impact on whatever machine you put it on.
That's good information there. Anything else, Kat? Anybody else? I know the probably next question is like, okay, well, how do we learn more about SyncX? How it could potentially help us in regard to our workflow? And that's kind of our next call to action is, well, we would love to learn more about what challenges you have. I can be reached either email or phone. And we'd love to, a lot of times people, hey, show me a little demo of this. And we could have done that today, but to tell you the truth, screenshots, sometimes it's a little glossy. So we'd love to have that be on a one-on-one situation and to be able to and confidentially talk about, your environment, what you're trying to do, some of the challenges you have. And so we would love to be able to have the opportunity to demo that for you and then talk about, well, would this solution work for you? And the steps to move forward to make that happen. And that's kind of the call to action there. That's what we have for today for SCADA OSI connector.
And just to talk about the demo version of the tool, if you do not have a license for the tool, we do have a demo version of it that'll basically just start running if you don't have a license. And you will be able to build and configure the rules, but you will not be able to build reports. You can preview Signet and Pi data and what your Pi objects would look like, but you will not be able to use the reporting piece and import information unless you have a license for it, but you can play around with the tool.
And I think another story too is this is not the only connector tool that we're considering to bring to market too. There's a lot of other challenges out there, and those are being considered too. So don't think this is a one and done solution, or other thoughts and developments being made.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. And, we'd be looking to partner with other customers just like we partnered with Encana to try and develop those solutions the right way.
Well, I think we've done pretty good for time here. I have almost 10:40, and I just want to make sure if there's any questions about what are the next step for people, or how to, we've got my contact information here. Anybody else from Larry and Don from the Next Coast team? Do you guys want to add anything in closing remarks?
Joe, I'd just like to say thanks for those who have attended, and we would be more than be our pleasure to demo the product for you and indicate to you the licensing arrangements and so forth, and get into those aspects that would be appropriate for a conversation with you and your company. I'd also say that the OSI platform, that Historian, is one that we have in production. The system SyncX has been architected to expect other SCADA platforms feeding the OSI Historian, and so we are vitally interested in solving this problem outside of the Signet world, and would be interested to talk with companies who don't have Signet, who are on this call, who have other SCADA platforms, and might be in other industries besides oil and gas. So I would just make those comments, and we do appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I'd really like to
thank Encana for joining us and sharing their story, and how the solution has helped them. I think that brings in true resonance of the capabilities and the benefits of SyncX.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. This was really a collaborative project with Encana, and this product is a combination of working together with them to really solve this problem the best way possible. It wouldn't have happened, without the entire team working together.
Well, that's all we have for today. If anybody else wants to share anything else or closing remarks, I want to say enjoy your day today. It's only 2 more days left of January, and we jump into February. But please reach out to me, and we'd love to schedule some time with you one-on-one, and for the attendees at our webinar. And we do have this recorded. Am I correct, Kat?
Yes.
Are we recording?
It
Beautiful.
recorded.
So if you know someone like, hey, I want to share this with, we can send the recorded webinar to other interested parties too. So make us aware of that, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you all.
Pat, we could. All right. Thank you. Everyone have a good Tuesday.
Thanks. Nice job, Kat and Joe. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks, Matt, Eric, man.